All right, good afternoon, all you City of Seattle customers. Thanks for joining us for our infrequent user or trade permit Skype session. We're going to go over a few things today. One of the things I'd like anybody that's joining in to know, we want to definitely make sure we mute all our mics. We don't want a bunch of that going on. And if you guys could message us and let us know what kind of records you're interested in us demonstrating, and we'll be able to cover those during this. Any specific things that you got, I'd like to know. Please don't send us too huge of a list because we only have so much time. But for getting going, I was going to go over some of the basics. While we're waiting on that, one of the first things that we'll look at is contacts. That always seems to be a bit of a struggle for most people to figure out. So the first thing that I'd like to demonstrate on contacts is the help button. So as you can see on my screen, hopefully everybody's got it. Just under Seattle Services Portal on the left-hand side, there's a help with a question mark next to it. If you click on that help, it'll take you into our very nicely developed Seattle Services Portal Help Center. So in that, there is a Managing Your Account button right in the middle, and that gives you access to our how to change your password, add additional contacts, and also how to add records to your collection, which isn't really a contact issue, but it's here. So if we open up the how to add additional contacts, you'll see right here we have a nice list of directions on how to add additional contacts. We'll go over that in today's presentation, adding contacts. There's also for trade, if you're doing trade licenses, you may be interested in how to add a professional license to your account, and we have that in the Help Center as well. So I invite everybody to go in there, check this out. It's very useful information. So back into the portal here. So in most situations when we're managing contacts, it's because we do have an actual account in Acela. So the first thing I'll do is go and log in. And throw in the password. And log in. Okay, now you can tell that I'm logged in because now it says account management right here. We have our collections, tells me I'm logged in, button says logged out, and we have a nice little button for announcements there, which I gotta say I don't know if it's doing anything for us yet. So in the account management is where we can go and add new contacts to our online user account. And you do want to try and keep in your head when you're working with our contacts in the Seattle Services Portal, your user account isn't a contact that you put on records, it's just what you use to log into the Seattle Services Portal. When I scroll down here in the contact information, this Matt Kowalski here, that is the contact that I have, and that is the contact that I will add to my records, unless I add more. To add contacts is a fairly simple process, and we'll do it. So I click on the Add a Contact button there, and first thing we need to do is say, is it an individual or an organization? In this case, we'll say individual. So I continue that, and as you can see, in order to look up or add contacts, all these fields with the red asterisk to it are required fields, so I'll have to put information in each of those boxes. In this case, I'm going to look up my good friend Moon, and I'm going to put in some information that I know. Throw in any old zip code number, and I I don't know her phone number by heart, but I'll take a good guess. But I do know her email, which will definitely help out knowing the name and email of the contact you're looking for. If you're adding a new contact that doesn't exist in the system, none of this matters. You just want to fill out the information as accurately as possible. So now that I've entered Moon Callison's name and her email, that'll give the system an easier time finding the existing contact. So I will continue, and you'll see there is Moon. And if I look in this actions, I can view what information I have for Moon in that. So I'm going to view, and you'll notice it added avenue, it corrected the zip code, added her correct phone number, all because I was able to put in the name and get the email that we have on file for her existing contact. So that's how you get existing contacts in there, and like I said, for new contacts you'll have to enter it all in new the best you can, and then you can put those contacts on your record.
They said they're not hearing anything.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm going to send a message and ask if anyone can hear. Actually, you could probably say that.
Yeah, can anybody hear this at all? We're getting reports that some people can't hear.
Okay. Well, it looks like only one person.
All right, never mind. We will continue. Sorry about the interruption. Let me find out where I was at. Okay. Back to the contacts. Okay, so at any point if I want to change anything about my account, I can through the login information. You see right here, this is the information contained in your user account that logs you into Acela. Don't confuse that with the contact information of the people that I actually put on my records. Since we're talking about trades, you can see I have a refrigeration contractor here. To add these licenses to your records, it's actually a fairly simple process. The thing that you need to know is what type of license you're going to add and the license number. So I'll click on add a license, and you see it gives you one drop down where you would select refrigeration contractor, put in the actual record number that we have on file. If it's a city license that we issue here, if it's a state license or L&I, like a general contractor or a electrical license, you would put in your state license number here, and it would be able to find that license and attach it to your account. So as you see, I'm adding a license. Since I put in a number that the system knows and the type, it was able to find the company. And I would just click the blue connect at the end, and it would connect that license to my account. Okay. We have any questions on contacts after that first little introduction? Nothing yet. Okay, no problem. Then we'll move on. All right. So the next thing I wanted to cover was just in general ways of finding records. So if you're logged in, most people have figured out that after logging in, I can click on the My Records tab right here under Seattle Services Portal, and as you can see, I have two categories here. One small one for those licenses that you saw. They are records, just like a permit is a record in Acela, or your pre-application's a record. So is the license. So it does keep the records here as my licenses. So you can view and edit them there. And also all my permits, trade, construction, and land use stuff is all held in the bigger folder on top. You see I have a lot of stuff there. One way that I would like to demonstrate to find records that may help to sort things out a little bit, there's actually two different ways. Here in the Find Existing, under Permits, Trade, Construction, and Land Use, for my permits, if I click on that, it takes me into the Find Existing screen. And if I want to narrow things down to only records that I have, I can check the box on Search My Records Only. And under the record status, well, sorry, I guess I have to select a record type. So we'll say construction well, we're going to go mechanical permits because we're talking trade stuff today. And you can see there's other different statuses of the records. So if I wanted to look at all my mechanical permits that have corrections required currently, I can say mechanical permits, corrections required, and when I click search, it searches. It automatically opens the record because I only had one at that particular status. If I had multiple records, it would give me a list of all my mechanical permits that are in the status of corrections required, and I would be able to search for them there. So we can try that again with a different one so you can see it get on a list. You always got to log in, and then you'll get the Search My Records Only box on the side there. And we'll go here. All right, there you go. Now you can see. So I have 2 mechanical permits that are currently in the additional information requested status. This is just before you do your intake, this is the status that you'll get on those particular record types. The other way, and this hasn't been deployed into our production site yet, but in a different environment, and unfortunately I got to log in here again. Oh, I guess I got to learn my password. Sorry folks, I guess I'm a little nervous today. This is my first time doing a Skype session, so bear with me. Okay, now that we're logged in the My Records tab, this is something that we're most likely going to implement for everybody. You can search your My Records tab by record type instead of the first way that you saw before. So if I clicked on permits, it's only going to show permits. If I go back to My Records and I say licenses, it's only going to show licenses that I have, or I can search for all records, and then it looks like the first screen that you saw in the other environment that I was just in. So then I can show my permits or show my licenses or whatever else that I have in my arsenal there. So back to where we were. Yes, let's stop for some questions on either contacts or looking up records. Can you review how I would generate a new permit on this portal? Yes, we will go into the pre-applications right now. I would appreciate if we could get any type of permits. Since we're looking at trade, there's a lot of different trade permits, and sometimes people want a specifically electrical or mechanical or boiler permits. I'd just like to know some idea on which type of permits we want to look at. Second record or question, do we need to sign in as a new user in order to just access permit information? No, you don't. You can, if I am not signed in and I go and log out and I click on home, you can see the screen is the same thing here without me logged in, and I can search in the global search up here, or I can use the Find Existing feature over here, which I would recommend using Find Existing if you're looking for permits by address, because the global search has a tendency to catch extra things that you may not want to see. You can also pay for any record's fees by opening a record and going to its fee section without being logged in. I believe if you use the Find Existing feature over here and you look up records that aren't yours, you could pay fees on those as well. Not too sure if anybody's that generous, but if you are, give it a try.
Request for shoreline permit and a sewer permit.
Shoreline permit and sewer permit. Okay. I am not too sure on the sewer permit, but I can definitely do side sewer. So let's go ahead. Before we do the pre-application for mechanical permits or construction permits, we will do a side sewer trade permit. So it starts by you got to log in and have a contact on your account. And I should stress to everybody, for your questions, if you have existing accounts or you have existing permits and you can't find them, it is most likely it's not lost, it's just a contact issue and something got lost in translation with your existing contact and the ones that you're currently using on your account. And you will have to call us at 206-684-8850. We'll try and type their numbers into the ongoing conversation. Those questions will have to go through us, and we'll have to fix those contacts from inside. Anyways, let's get back to the side sewer permit. So when you select that, if you have licenses on your account, such as I do, it'll ask you if you want to use them on the record that you're applying for. In this case, I don't need them, so I'll click None Applicable and continue. So side sewer permits are very straightforward, and I can use this as an example for all permit types here. All kind of start out the same way, and they're all different depending on what type of permit you're applying for. So with side sewer, we'll select it there and continue the application. So we have to put in an address, and you can be vague on your address. If this was 245 something street, I could type in just 245, or I could put in the street name. In this case, I'm just going to type in the address. You'll see it pops out a list of all the valid Seattle addresses that start with that number. I'll select one. It gives you a development site. When I click select, you see it puts that nice address perfectly the way we need it into that the boxes here, the fields. If you know the full address and you type it in, that's fine, but we do recommend that you always click search to get it to attach it to that development site number. If you don't, sometimes there's issues with being able to schedule your inspections. So moving on, we click continue application. We're going to move forward from the address and then go into the application details on this record. Most records do the contact second. This one does the application details second, which is where you fill out some known information about your record. So it wants you to tell yourself about the project, and we can say a side sewer spot repair. You can be as detailed as you want. Is there work in the right-of-way? Well, occasionally side sewer does get it. Most permits are, generally speaking, never in the right-of-way, but all these fields that you see with the red asterisks before the question are required to be answered before you can move on to the next page. So I'm going to answer these questions to the best of my knowledge. Really expensive side sewer repair. And we get down here and there is a disclaimer that you have to have your RSSC. You can put in a related construction project number, but then you get into these required fields right here. And you would fill those things out as needed. Sanitary, side sewer. Oops. So if I'm doing a side sewer repair, you can see in the sanitary type of work, there's a drop down where you can select new, addition, repair, none, or temporary. So I would say repair there. And in the drainage, I could say none, or I could fill all this stuff out according to whatever work that I'm doing. And if everything's right, I can click continue application down at the bottom, and we should be able to move on. And if you do what I did, you'll get an error. Number of service drain lines capped. I didn't fill out the information there.
Getting some questions as well.
Oh, service drain lines capped. Okay, sorry, folks. Okay, we filled out that information. Okay, so this is one other spot as far as contacts that I wanted you guys to see. So there is a applicant, financially responsible party. These required contact types will vary from record to record. In this particular one, these two, as you can see by the red asterisks, are required before I can continue past this page. The first way that will demonstrate that you can add a contact to a record is by selecting from your account. When I select that, if you remember from earlier, I added Moon Callison and I was already there on this record. So I can easily check a radio button next to the contact that I want to put on the record, and boom, it puts them on there. In most cases, you probably never want to add new unless you know that this person does not have a contact in our system. For most other cases, if they are not on my account, I would look up. And if I know that the person I'm looking for is Miss Tanya Capps, once again, the email is the important part. I'll put her name in there and see if the system can find her. Oh boy, we got some. Oh. I forgot Tanya doesn't have an account on this particular portal. So I'll just find myself. Okay. There we go. It found one contact that matched that email address and threw them into that field. Now I can continue the application that I've required. I've fulfilled the two requirements here. Of course, if it asks for other things, you probably want to answer those as well, especially on a side sewer that has a work on the right-of-way. You want to put your RSSC in your contractor contact field. In the case where records ask for attachments, you need to be aware that in most cases, the document that it doesn't necessarily say what document we want, and a lot of times it does say what documents we're going to want for that record. So if you do know of particular document types that are required for those records typically, and it's not listed, just upload them anyways. The upload process is the same for most records. You would select upload documents again, and select something off of your computer. In this case, we'll go with the flower and continue. Now my document's right here. It's halfway done. Now I have to select what type of document it is. Every list will be different depending on the record, but they should contain almost every document type that we would want you to upload with those records. So in this case, I'm going to say it's a plan set and put in a description. And save it. And you'll see the green check mark at the top. It says we were successful. Now I have my plan set and I can continue. The last screen you always get when you're applying before you pay fees is the review screen, and this just gives you one more opportunity to go back through, view the information that you put in about your record, and edit any of those items. You can go back to sections, as you can see where my cursor's at now. You see up in the top in blue, I could go back to documents or contacts. Once you go back there, you have to go back through everything again, but it does save what you've already put in. And the last screen will be to pay fees. I guess it's not the last screen, but that's the last screen where you have to do something. And well, this one automatically issued without paying fees, so lucky me, I got a free permit. All right, so we'll go ahead and do some more questions now. Okay. All right, perfect, good. We got some good types coming in. So next question, what is the difference between a CN or PH, etc.? Those CNs and PHs and SSs are a suffix at the end of the record number, which for all intents and purposes are, in a way, I hate to say it, but they're somewhat meaningless. I wouldn't get caught up on those. As you can see on my list of records, there is an SS after this record number, but just next to it, there's always a record type. Side sewer. EL is electrical, but it says it right next to the record on the record type column. Every time you pull up a list of records like this, like an RR re-roofing permit, we don't pay too much attention to them here. We get very used to seeing these because we're used to seeing records all day long, but that's what the little 2 letters at the end of your record number means. Right. But the PH permit, the official permit number, like to see in permit numbers. Oh. Oh, the suffix numbers. Okay, thank you. Oh, and unfortunately, I don't have any of those. Oh, there is. Okay. All right. This situation where you have a 7-digit permit number with your -ME or PHCN, there's also times where there is a child of that original parent record, and they will have a 3-number suffix at the end, and it starts with 1 and keeps going all the way up to 999. Hopefully we'll never have a record with that many amendments. What the amendments are is if you have special inspections, revisions, upload documents, as you can see on this type here. Every time I upload a document to a record using our system, it will create another child record underneath the parent. The way that it looks, and I can demonstrate this a little bit better. Bear with me for one moment. You look at the and needed to know if we need to include the number assigned after the letters. In most cases, for working with your projects, that's wonderful. You guys didn't see this error message. You do not need to reference the suffix numbers on those records. If you have large projects that have special inspections, revisions, whatnot, if you're communicating to your reviewers about a specific revision, you do want to include the suffix number. In general terms, if you're talking about your permit, you can just include the permit number. We can find the rest from there. They are all interconnected. I was going to show you a record with a lot of childs, but we're going to just skip that and keep moving on. I don't want to get caught up in too much minutia. Hopefully that answered your question. So we usually are just trying to verify permit numbers for, oh, okay, that was the second part of the PH numbers. So hopefully you got your answer there. If not, I'll touch on it a little bit later. Can a temporary record number be removed from my records? Man, I am sorry to say, but currently that is not a function that we have been able to do. I would say using collections is one way of taking records out of your My Records page, putting them into a different screen so that you can avoid looking at the whole this is everything I've ever had my name on, and then you could look at things in certain different batches. If you were viewing before, one way of finding records was through Find Existing, and using this Search My Records Only box and searching for records by status, address, or record type. Going back to My Records. With this being said, I was going to cover collections, so we'll just go into that right now. When you're in My Records and you have a big bunch of records like I do, I can select some records like my TMPs, and you'll see right here, Add to Collection at the top. I can add them to an existing collection. I have one here, or I can create a new collection by hitting the radio button and typing in a name and add. And you'll see up here, once it gets done, I'll have 2 collections instead of just one. I guess it's going to take a minute to go there, but that's one way of getting them into an organized deal. But when I put them in collections, it does not remove them from this My Records list. They stay there, but the collections going into these, and it looks just like this screen with a big list, but it's one way of organizing that. Can you change the applicant on an existing record? No, you can't from the Seattle Services portal, but you can call your reviewers or call into here, and we'll be able to change that stuff for you. It's not, we don't have the ability right now for customers to be able to change who the contacts are on records. Land use project. Okay. How to establish 3 million number after applying for pre-application on a land use project is another question. You guys as customers don't establish the numbers. You do a pre-application. Once the pre-application has been processed, we will create the record that gets copied from the pre-application, and that's what creates your 3 million or 6 million number. So it's just part of the process that comes after the pre-application, and you should be receiving notice that we're starting the review process on your permit, and you'll get your permit number at that time. Okay. So we did have a question about shoreline permits. That is something that I'm assuming we're talking about a shoreline exemption. If I got this wrong, I apologize. So for construction permits, land use permits, and mechanical permits right now, they all start with the pre-application record. So we'll look at that. So I'm going to click back on home, get back to my home screen, and we go to the Create New. I will say exemptions are kind of a hard one to find, and for a lot of people, just construction and mechanical and land use tends to be a little bit of a interesting thing for them as well. So I'm going to just skip past that license question. Now, if you notice here, there's one nice sentence right here. If you need a construction, land use, master use, commercial, or mechanical permit, not a single-family duplex permit, choose building and land use pre-application. I want to point out, for mechanical permits, we are going to be changing very soon that you do not have to go through a building and land use pre-application for those. We're going to have, just like you see conveyance permit, there will be one of these selections for mechanical permit, so we can skip out of a pre-app for those soon. So for your shoreline exemptions and all other construction permits, and we'll hit boiler pressure vessels after this one. So building and land use pre-application. So I'm going to select that and hit continue application. And once again, we got to put in our number. And I don't want to waste a lot of time on the addresses other than just to make sure you guys know that even if we type in the number here, we definitely always want to hit search. I don't know if you noticed me click that development site number, but that's an important thing to have. So the pre-application, there's always an applicant and an owner required. Once again, you can select from the count, look up, or if it's a new contact that doesn't have any contact existing in our system, we'll add new. But for most cases, it's always select from account or look up. So for the sake of expediency, I'm going to select these from my account and move forward and continue my application. So we get past the contacts. So for new construction, we always want to answer the first question as yes. If we're doing SDFI permit for construction, we want yes on the additions or changes to an existing building. If we're applying for a mechanical permit, we want to always check I'm installing or repairing a mechanical system to yes. As you can see, there's a lot of questions that are in regards to land use and zoning, master use permit, subdividing properties. This is how you get started on your land use permits. Down on the second to the bottom, you'll see one for all those folks that are doing construction or mechanical permits that want STFI permits. I think my project qualifies as a subject to field inspection. You always want to answer that yes if you think that applies to your project. So for your shoreline exemption, there is adding or changes to existing building if that's what you're doing. Most of these questions don't refer to anything that you are doing for a shoreline exemption. So we'll select additions. I'm going to leave SDFI alone and continue application. So we got to put in our description again. You have to put something there to move forward. Oh, I forgot to do that on this screen. Look at me. Okay, next page. Move on. Sorry, I forgot to fill in my description there. So is the work in the right-of-way, street or alley required? In this case, I'm going to say no. Single family. Throw in a number. If you have curb cuts, you can fill that information in now. Well, say for those people that do bigger permits, this information that they're asking you for on this page is what ends up being the information that goes on your cover sheet. You answer the tenant information to the best of your ability. Everybody's got to answer that question. So we'll say someone's living there. The ground disturbance fields can be a little bit of a mess. We are going to be changing these fields very soon as well. But if you have ground disturbance, you definitely want to fill these fields out accordingly. If not, you can answer no and skip on down. Building code information is more questions that you must need to answer. Answer again to the best of your abilities. I'm sure we'll understand if you don't know. And I'm only answering the questions that are required so I can move forward with this. Since the only thing that requires a pre-application so far is just a person asking about the shoreline, that's just what we'll stick with. Yes, cool. All right. In this case, on this pre-application, if you have a subject to field inspection permit, you will need to upload a plan set. So you can see we did put some language here. If you have a SDFI permit, you're trying to get one of those, and you know there's checklists or any other documents that are typically required for applying for those, go ahead and upload them now so that you got them, we got them, and everything's good to go. So since a site plan is required at the minimum to continue from this, I'm going to upload my site plan. And it's a huge site with a big mountain in the middle. All right. So in the type column, you'll see on the pre-application, here's kind of what we have. Just a little bit of tip off on what documents we may require. SDFI checklist, I mentioned that in this case, and the plan set. If you read the language up above, I can't get to it right now, but it did say you need to upload your plan set for SDFI construction permits or mechanical permits. Upload your plan set here. But in this case, we're just going to upload our site plan, put in a nice handy description so that they know exactly what it is. When that's all good to go, we will continue our application. Once again, you're back to that review screen. There should be no fees on a pre-application record. And click and continue, and there we go. Everything was good. We received your information, and I got the green check mark. If you have a owner that's supposed to pay the fees for this, you can always give them the link to this number. They can get to it there, or you'll be notified in the future with a link saying you owe fees. You can send them that link, maybe a little bit better. So once we've created this pre-application, I know of two ways in my head to do this, but I'm going to go with the more standard route. I know it's this. I'm going back to my records. Since this is the most recent thing that I've added to my records, it's always going to end up on the top. And you'll see there is a Make Changes link over here in the action column. If I click on that, there's your exemption request. And now we can start creating that record for your exemption. So, just give you a quick preview on this. So since it already knew this number or address from the pre-application record, it's already filled out. We can skip by it. It already knew I was the owner from the pre-application record, so I don't need to fill that out, but I need to select somebody else as the applicant now for the exemption request. Once again, as you see, all this stuff, it kind of repeats itself over and over. So most of these permit types are all the same. And when we get to the boiler permit, you'll notice it's about the same as well. Project information, you can see this is great because it puts in most of the information that I already put into the other record. And request information, type of exemption, steep slopes, relief, blah, blah, blah. Shoreline exemption, continue. Based on those previous questions, it kind of leads you through more and more tables and fields that you need to answer. Not over the water. In most records in Acela, or not in Acela, in the Seattle Services portal, you'll find these tables. In this case, we have a table for shoreline exemption types. It's going to ask us to add a row. You can see there's a bunch of selections in here that hopefully that'll fit whatever it is that you're looking for. Reason for a request is kind of a description of work. You can type whatever you want in there, be as detailed as you can possibly be. Try not to go too far with it though. Once I get all that filled out, I can continue. Once again, upload documents. In the case when you're going into something like this, you may want, like I said, to upload any documents you think are relevant to putting in this application for whatever it is you're applying for. I'm just going to continue because it's not requiring me. Back to the review, as you saw in most records. I know I'm speeding through this, but I want to get to our questions, and I really want to get to that boiler pressure vessel permit. And here, finally, we got one record that wants us to pay fees before we can move forward. And as far as I understand, all these records, once you get to this application, we're going to stop making you pay right here, and we're going to make it so that if I am not the person paying the fees, I can go ahead and get the application in, and we can send a link to the financially responsible party for paying those fees at a later time. All right, so we'll skip the cart and go back home. All right. Did we generate any more questions from that? All right, we'll get through those and then we'll head on to that boiler pressure vessel permit. Okay, this is great. When the pre-app process is complete. Oh, I thought I answered that. And a 3 million number is assigned, currently no one is notified. How can we get notification? Well, I think we are sending out notifications for everything. The system should automatically be doing this. I believe there was an error on your part, and we deserve a phone call to ask what's going on. And the phone number that I gave earlier, the 206-684-8850, that's 206-684-8850. Call in our customer service. We have a ACE team help desk set up at the moment where those people can go dig into these records for you, and we'll do our best to find out as much information as we can and get your record on the right track. Okay, now another question, just to confirm, the additions to a permit such as OOX, which show special inspection requirements, we still use the permit number with the letter PH or CN only on our inspection reports. Correct. The amendment records, your revisions, your shop drawings, did I mention special inspections? Maybe I did. Upload documents, all those records that have the -00 and a number, those are what I would call inactive records. Only they're there for the purpose of uploading documents and making changes to the parent record. So all your inspections you want to do from the parent construction, PH, CN, ME, whatever permit that you got. Okay, and will there be more notifications about fees in the future? Yes, we are trying to clean that up the best we can so we can get you all the perfect, best communications that we can at every point in the process of processing your records. Sometimes I receive an email, and other times the pay fees due shows up next to the permit number without a notification. Well, there are times where fees may be getting added to records, and so it will show that fees are due, but it hasn't hit the end of a cycle yet. In those cases, it would be best to just be patient, not pay the fees until you do receive a communication from us. I know that can get a little bit worrisome sometimes because you don't know if we just failed to send a notification or is there one coming, but in most cases I would just try and exercise a little bit of patience and wait, because as reviews are getting done or things are being processed on records, fees can be added before another notification comes out. Okay, all right, we'll caught up on questions for the moment. So now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the boiler permit. Okay, so once again, we're going to go back to the same place where we've gone a few times before, to the permits, trade, construction, and land use, create new thing portal. There is no license required for applying for a boiler permit, so I'm going to say none applicable for my select a license and continue the application. You boiler guys are the first one on the list. You see there, boiler pressure vessel permit. So we go into that particular permit, select it, and continue the application. So here's our address section again. I'm going to do the example that it gave us and just type in 201 Northgate like they asked us and search. That was a great example on our part. Oh, I typed in gate, my bad. It's a user error. This happens a lot with all software systems. And once I hit search, it knew there was only 1201 North Lake in the address database, so it automatically put it in there. So I didn't have to select anything else because there was only 1201 North Lake in our system. So I'm going to continue. And here we go again. Applicant, contractor only. These two are required because they have the red star. For the sake of expediency, since we've talked about lookup and add new, I'm just going to add people from my account. There we go. We are added. I could be an overachiever and add an owner if I like, but in this case I don't have to, so I'm going to continue. All right, I will not forget this time. Tell us about your project. You may recognize that from every permit or record that we've applied for so far, and I can be as detailed as I want. A new boiler. More description the better. We don't need too much, but more is good in most cases. So most likely there's no boiler on the street, so I'm going to say no. I could say vacant land, but in this case we're going to say it's a commercial project, and the estimated project value, which if you have want to know more about any of these little items, you will notice throughout this whole thing there's all these little blue check marks, or sorry, question marks next to the fields where you put in your answers, and it gives you a little bit more information about that particular item. Boiler application information, type of work. You have 4 choices: new, replacement, repair. We will be adding a type of work for a certification only, so if you're just getting a boiler certified, you'll be able to select only that type of permit. Currently, right now, we don't have that. Don't ask me what a full replacement is. Okay, so new, object type is either boiler or pressure vessel. You'll notice down here in boiler unit information, some things tend to change based on previous selections. So if I select pressure vessel, the boiler source of heat is not required no more because a pressure vessel does not have a source of heat. But we'll apply for a boiler permit. And as you can see, I'm just going to go through, add the fields that are required. On a boiler permit, there is a little bit of fun stuff here. If I say it's combustion, electrical power is no longer required and is 0. If I say electric power, heating surface size is not required, but electrical power is. Things to keep your eyes on, and this is kind of across the board on a lot of record types. 45 square feet, automatically certified. We'll just say it's got all the bells and whistles. Burner info was only supposed to be required at a certain point, and I can't remember what that was. Pressure vessel info. Some of these fields still show up. Obviously, this is not a pressure vessel, so just leave it at 0. And if this applies to you, burner info, you can add a row, and you can select whatever it is out of this table and submit. One thing for everybody to know, in the case of your boilers, 1 boiler for 1 permit. It does give you the illusion that you can apply for multiple boilers for 1 permit, but that is not the case. We'll send you back to get more permits if you have installing 3 boilers, but you only get 1 permit. Okay, attachments, none are required for a boiler pressure vessel, so we can continue unless you got a bunch of good stuff you want to upload for us to look at. Once again, your review screen. You can look at everything and make sure it's good. Unfortunately, with the case that I explained earlier, I added an applicant to the record, even though I say edit, and hopefully I don't catch myself lying. I'm not. You can't change it. You can only go with the selection that you already put in. Oh, I guess there is a remove. Oh, you can delete an applicant during the application process. I stand corrected. I guess we got that fixed. Okay, but now that I removed them, I got to put them back on there, or else we can't move forward. So there you go. Good thing about that review screen. But bad thing is, you see it took me all the way back to contacts, and now I got to go through the application all over again. But since I got everything added, documents weren't required, but they would have been uploaded. Now it'll take me into the fee screen, where now I can go and pay for all my boiler stuff, and get my permit. So I get to the Pay Now screen, check on Checkout, enter in my phony credit card information. Go ahead and try and use that credit card number, I dare you. All right. And hopefully it all works. Oh, good, we got more questions coming. Great. All right, while we're waiting for that to go, we are waiting for a construction intake appointment for one of our permits. Right now, the system says it has an initiated status, but an expiration date of 1/31/18. Well, I'll just stop there. The expiration date isn't going to be entirely accurate yet because technically, if it's in review, if it's, should I say, pre-issuance, the permit doesn't actually expire. So that number that you're seeing, disregard. It's not going to affect the way anything works. You will get a valid expiration date once we issue the permit. For construction, it'll be 18 months from the day that it was issued. Okay, that was before we even made a permit. Okay, I guess I was already answering that. Is this just a glitch? Answered that. Do we need to call to have this fixed? No, you don't. It'll get fixed once we issue the record. Okay. Will permit corrections be sent through this portal as well? And then, are the permit correction responses to be resubmitted? You know what? That's great. I do have an example set up so that we can show you how corrections are done. If we're in our review process and someone sends me an email and says all the reviews have been completed, now you need to submit your corrections. I gotta find my record. Okay, 6658592. Got it here. You can see on the very bottom there is a corrections required status on this mechanical permit. Now, when it's at this status, we are able to click on the Make Changes link, and that will take us to where we can upload our documents. I do want to say or stress at this point, get all of your correction documents. They don't have to be one document. They just have to be ready to all be uploaded at this one time. If you don't upload all your documents, we're going to have a little bit of a problem. So we'll just say the rule is, at this point, as you can see, I clicked Make Changes, and I'm going to click on Upload Documents. It unfortunately doesn't say Upload Correction Response or anything, but Upload Documents hopefully will make the most sense. Continue application. As I was saying, you want to have everything ready to go so you can upload all your corrections at this one time. So here we are, applicant. Always wants to know this. So I'm going to put myself on there again and continue the application. This right here, when I get done doing this, it will create one of those amendment-001 records, which goes as a child to the parent mechanical permit, which is in review right now. This screen you can't do anything with. Document information, the purpose is to provide all correction requests. You can't modify it. So we're going to continue past it and get to our upload documents screen. So now that I have all my correction documents ready to go for this, I click upload and upload. And I can take all, holding the control button and clicking on all these 4 things that they wanted to see: a jellyfish, a koala, lighthouse, and penguins pictures in order to issue this permit. So that's what I'm going to give them. Now that you see they're all 100% uploaded, I can continue. And you'll see now there are 4 documents here that I need to tag with a document type, and I need to put in a description. In this case, there should be a correction response, and I can put in my description of what it is. Or I can put in, I would probably, Tanya, we want to name them all correction response, correct? Okay, good. Seems to be the most smartest thing so we can find them. Okay, if there's something that makes better sense than correction response, by all means go ahead and throw it on there, because we can't see the date that they were uploaded, and that'll let us know that these were things that you had uploaded with your corrections. Oops. Okay, we'll do a plan set. As you can see, this list is very long. A lot of people are always asking, where is the other document? I will say at this point, we don't have another document. I'm sorry. But go through the list and find the thing that most closely matches what it is that you're trying to upload. I know it's a huge list, but please try to be as good as you can about going through there, and you will find something that vaguely resembles what it is that you're trying to upload, and throw it in there. And be as detailed as you want. Don't be lazy like me with other stuff in my description. It's better to put as much as you can in these things so that we know what's going on. Okay, now that I got them all tagged, you can see I got some correction response, a plan set, and whatever an accessory structure agreement is. There we go. Now I hit continue application. Once again, it always goes to this review screen. Continue past that because I know what I did was good. And we're going to get down to the green check mark screen if it's happy with all that stuff. All right, there we go. We received your information. There is a record number associated with it, but that should turn into the record number. The actual permit number with a -00 should be the number for the record created doing this action. So when I go back to my records, I'm going to go back to my records, show permits, and scroll down to the bottom where that mechanical permit is. Now you'll see, wait a minute, 8592. Where did it go? Oh, I'll show you this. There is the upload document record, and if I think it's on page 2 now. There it is. It changed the status of the record to reviews in process. So what it's saying is now it's no longer corrections required. Now we're back into doing the reviews. So at this point, you'll notice if I click on make changes, I want to make this very apparent to everybody. If it's not the right time to click make changes in the record, the only thing it's going to do is automatically go into a record withdrawal screen. So if I click that link, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now you see withdraw request. We've had a few where people didn't know how to get out of the screen. They kept hitting continue application and they withdrew their record on accident. It's very easy to get out. There's a back arrow, or you can click back on my records. It says, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I don't want to withdraw. There we go. We're back out of that thing now. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. What does automatic certification mean? Well, what does boiler monitoring system mean? Automatic certification. I am not a boiler inspector. I would say for the boiler automatic certification and boiler monitoring questions, call the 206-684-8850 if that's very interesting to you, and ask for the boiler department, and those people will be able to answer that question for you better than I can. I don't want to give you the wrong answer, but I would assume if you're in the business of boilers, that's probably just normal stuff for you, but I do apologize, I don't know the full answer to that. Okay, is there a way to look through all pages in an application prior to starting the application? No, unfortunately there is not. You have to go through the pages one by one. Some pages are smarter than others, where the next page will be based on your selections from the previous page. So therefore we can't, in probably almost every case, be able to show you all the questions. Can you please go over how to renew a permit? Oh man. Okay, I can. All right, when a permit, you have to be the contact on the record, and when you click on the My Records and Permits, Trade, Construction, and Land Use, we come down here to this electrical permit, you'll see a link has been created because it's within 30 days of the expiration, or 30 days before it expires. This pay fees due link will show up. Now I can go and renew this permit, and it should hang out there for up to a year after expiration. After that, it's not going to happen. You can't renew it no more. So clicking on pay fees due is very similar to, oh, they've made this a lot better. Okay, I wasn't aware of this change, but now it just goes straight into checkout. I think on other construction records there's an amendment with a opportunity to upload documents. It looks just like the upload documents page that we had, except at the end there's an opportunity to pay fees. And really very simple process. But the thing that you're going to need is to have your name on the record, and then when you open it up and go into the My Records, you'll get the pay fees due link. Or if you're at that point, call the 684-8850 number, and we can help you renew your permit over the phone. Okay, where do you find what the corrections entail? Is there a link to the uploaded files with the corrections requested? Oh, good question. You know what? I sincerely apologize. I didn't go over that with that record example that I had. If I go back to that mechanical permit, this is the one where we put the corrections in. I can open the record from my Records page, or I don't have to be the person on the record, but in this case I am. Now I have better access. I can open the record here by clicking the link, or I can search from it from the Find Existing, which we did earlier, or I can put it into the global search. Doesn't matter. I'm going to just plop it into the global search and search for it there, just so you can get that demonstration. Here it is. So I'm going to click on the link for that record, and in its attachments section, when I click on that, you'll see correction letters right here. Those are the 3 correction letters that were there prior to us uploading, and you can see after we uploaded the correction responses, those ended up down low. When you have large records with tons and tons of items on them, any of these column headings here will allow you to sort, not filter, but sort the records by name, type, and upload date. So if I wanted to organize the type, I could do it here, or organize the name of the file there. But we have our 3 correction letters. If I click on that, hopefully it's nothing inappropriate, but we'll see. This is a training environment after all. Oh, look at that. See? Everything I needed to know about that particular correction. And most of those correction letters will include directions on how to upload your correction response. Do you have to upload the full set, even the pages that have no corrections? For corrections, yes, that is the case. Oh, you want all the sheets? So the whole thing. Yep. Upload the whole thing. Sorry. Upload your whole full plan set every time. Okay. We have a permit that we received, the permit letter for special inspections. And then we received a couple of versions. The first version waived items. The second version, revision, shows additional inspections added, but doesn't show the original waived items as waived, and the website shows the items waived. So how do we determine whether or not the waived items are still waived? This issue something that we need to speak to someone in person about? I would say yes. You want to talk to our quality control people. And once again, I'll refer you to the 206-684-8850 and ask for our quality control department. And they will be able to clear that up. And if we need to send out a new nomination letter to you for those special inspections at that time, we can. Okay, I have a pre-app started. Under action, it says make changes. When I go to it, it says exemption request, but I don't need an exception or exemption. What triggered that? How do I move forward? Well, right now you're in a waiting pattern for your pre-app to get processed. And the only option at that time for pre-apps is the exception exemption request. So once we get the pre-app processed and we create the record number, you will get a communication and we'll be able to move forward. If it's been a long period of time, we'll have to call the number I keep repeating, 684-8850, and we can talk to those people, see if your record's stuck or if it's just waiting. I will say pre-apps are taking a little while to get processed right now. As last I heard, we're in the 4 to 6 week range on getting those things processed. There's a big backlog right now, so feel free to call if you feel things are stuck. If not, and you're in the 4 to 6 week range on per plan records, chances are you're just still waiting. And my apologies. We'll get there. Okay, is that it for questions? Okay. All right. Man, I was hoping there's a lot more questions because we really burned through that thing fast. Okay. What did I miss on this thing? That's really all there is to it, folks. So go ahead and shoot me some more record types that you want to walk through, or keep sending me more questions. We covered contacts. Hopefully that's clear to you guys. I did show you the sneaky way of finding things that are your records using Find Existing. We talked about paying fees, that you can use your My Records to find all those things that have fees on them, or you can just simply log into a record. If I'm not logged in and I go to this mechanical permit and open it up, could be any permit. If there were fees due, it would show pay fees over here on the right side, or I could go into the record and there is a fees section. If the fees are still due, you'll have an opportunity to pay the fees from here as well. Try to make it really easy to pay fees. Went over that. We went over a few processes, how to do a pre-application and get that into the right queue. If you do have problems with your pre-applications, like I said, please call us. We'll do our best to either tell you you're on track or put your pre-application in the right place, because we do have some pre-applications where people don't fill out the right check boxes on the records and they get lost. And by calling us, we'll be able to get them on the right track. All right, if our intake appointment is moved up, will we get an email? It is common for intakes to get bumped up, and you will receive an email notification from us. Everything I've been told, that is what we are doing. We're trying to keep people moving, and they do get canceled quite a bit, so make sure you check your emails, because chances are you will get something that will notify you that we're ready to move up your intake appointment. Do you happen to know why so much more information is required for your refrigeration permit now than was required in the past? Yes, I do. And we have a request that I personally took some time in to get that cleaned up so that the refrigeration permit application that you see here will be more like the refrigeration paper application that you used to fill out before we went to this new system. Since we're talking about refrigerations, I'll go ahead and apply for one. Select a license. I have a refrigeration contractor license that I would like to use. Don't tell McKinstry. And I am selecting a refrigeration permit from the select a record type. And just so everybody knows, this is a practice environment, so everything I'm doing is just doesn't make any difference to the world. This is just a internal database Seattle Services portal that we use for practicing. Go ahead and throw my record on here. I'll get to your refrigeration questions here in a second, because I would like to demonstrate the better way of applying for refrigerations in lieu of us getting this change put into the system. And I don't know how long we're out on making this change to simplify your refrigeration permits. If you are mechanical contractors and you are applying for single-family furnace permits, I think this is a good time to bring up that the contractor field, when you're filling out those applications, is looking for a contact that has a general contractor's license attached to it. So if you have a general contractor license and you're applying for furnace permits, to get around the loophole that we have now, go to your account management, get your general contractor license tied to your account, and then it won't give you grief when you're applying for those permits. Otherwise, just put your name in owner and you'll get through. All right, let's get into this refrigeration permit. Okay, so if we're applying for a refrigeration permit, chances are they're always new. Let's just go with new almost every single time. Even if you're replacing something that's already there, it's a new piece of equipment, so just new. Number of compressors, we want to answer that for however many things that we got. So if we have 4, we'll say 4. And if I say 4 a number of compressors, I want to add 4 rows to this very confusing new table of information that we have. I'll try to make this as clear as possible. You have to fill out all the things with the stars. So most people don't know what this is, so just say whatever makes the most sense to you. I'm sorry to say it. So we'll just say standalone compressor. If you can find your manufacturer in the drop down, great. If not, just say other. It's one of the few places we'll let you say other. Pick whatever refrigerant class that makes the most sense to you. And then your tonnage, we want you to put it in the tonnage field and the horsepower field. Number of safety valves, you can say 0 or 1. Safety valve discharge location, you know what, my best guess. And I hate to say it to you guys like this, but this record is one that we do need to do a lot of work with. Most people don't know what a compressor type is, so just, you know, whatever sounds really cool to you. I like the turbo card myself. So there we go. That's how you fill them out. And the point is you want to say how many compressors you have, and the important thing is putting your tonnage currently right now in the horsepower field. That way we charge the fees accordingly. So if you have 4 compressors, you're putting 4 units on the project, fill out 4 tables. The important thing is putting your tonnage in the horsepower in one row of each of these tables, and that'll get you your refrigeration permit right the first time, as much as that doesn't make sense. Okay. Oh man, after all that, it didn't generate any more questions? Oh, okay, good. Just waiting for the question to come to me, and then we'll blast out another one for you guys. Okay. We have a project where the client was issued a permit for a specific building. The additional buildings also have permit numbers, but no special inspections required. Which permit number should we use for our inspections? I know that your office wants the reports sent separately by permit number, but will you only need a final letter for the original required inspections permit? So you have a dependent building review type on those records where you set in one big huge plan set on one permit. They created the additional permits based on the amount of buildings, separate foundations that you had on that project. So your daily inspection requests, I'll start there. You'll do those by which building are we inspecting today, and those are our SDCI building inspectors or site inspectors, mechanical inspectors, whatever permit it is, whatever building, you want those inspections done there. Since this is a dependent project and the special inspections apply to the whole project, and they're only special inspection records under that main parent permit for the entire project, you will turn in all your field reports and your final letters under the one main special inspection record, and then we'll close it out from there. Hopefully that makes sense. ECA exemption for a construction permit. Sure, I'll do my best to walk through a ECA exemption. So we already have a construction permit, or we're applying for a construction permit before intake. Off of the pre-app.
Well, it doesn't. It could be under the construction.
Oh.
But it has to be at a certain status for them to see that. I've logged an issue to make it available always.
Okay. I don't know that I have. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm just clicking on stuff. That I have any records that are in the status currently. So in a particular status on the construction permit, you will have. Oh, where'd my pre-apps go? Oh, there's one. So whether it's your construction permit, I don't know which status the construction permit has to be in. I apologize for that, but I do know on the pre-application record itself, someone already asked, why is my only option an exemption? So you can apply for your exemption off your pre-application or your construction permit by going through the Make Changes button. Okay, perfect. So whether it's the construction permit or the pre-app, you click on Make Changes, and as we did it once before, so I don't want to go through the whole process again, but the shoreline and the ECA, all the exemptions are here, and I just check, I'm going to make a change. It's going to create a child record for the exemption. If you're doing this off of the construction permit or the pre-app, doesn't matter. It will put in the address. It'll put in some information that it drags off of those other records. So I'm just going to quickly go through and add my contacts. Continue. Oh. Okay, hopefully Deb is on. I have very limited records in this other environment. I'm sorry, folks, I wasn't ready for that. Yeah. And I have my counterpart here log in for me so that I can use her test records to demonstrate the exemption for you. I'm sorry about that. Unscheduled or scheduled maintenance that I wasn't expecting to happen. Okay, perfect. So here we go. Now we're back on track. So I have a pre-application. Okay, we'll just go off of one of these. Oh. Well, let's go back. So application completed. Okay, we're up in the, before we get to reviews on a construction permit, we're in the zone I'm crossing my fingers. I should be able to click make changes. Oh, I didn't get to do it. All right. We'll just go off of the pre-application. So as I wanted to show you the menu where you can select a specific type of exemption. So as you see, I click the make a change button. I get in here, say I'm doing an exemption, whatever, you get it. It's got my address. And my contacts. Okay, it's not down. So I will need to put in a new description for my exemption right there. It's a really good detailed description. And the request type, environmentally critical area exemption. As you saw last time, we did shoreline. So the next page will be based off of the drop down that I select here. So I said environmentally critical, and then it gives me this thing that I got to fill out that has something to do with the ECA exemption. And I can add a row, and I get 2 drop downs and a reason for the request. You can see there's a lot of selections in there. It could be an emergency, maintenance, rebuild, whatever we got to do. ECA type, hopefully you know that. We'll be able to fill that in. Say it's an abandoned landfill because it sounds good. Oh, I guess I'm yelling on my typing. Sorry, guys. Well, cows, it sounds good. All right. Once again, after you put in that small little bit of information, you're asked to upload any attachments that you think are important. We can, just for the heck of it, see what we have in our list of documents. Optional applicant upload. So there's kind of like the one thing that we have that's close to other. And then we put in a description again, save it, get the green check, and continue. Continue again because I don't want to review the screen. Hopefully you all got used to seeing the review screen just before you go to the pay fees screen. Pay fees are only there if it happens to be something that you have to pay for upon submittal. This one right now is. So I'll go ahead and check out so we can have another one of these bad boys for our arsenal. And submit. So once it gets done processing the payment, we'll have our exemption in the queue for review. Look at that, green check. And one thing I haven't pointed out to most people, at this point you should print, view your receipt. It's a little bit of a process if you don't collect it now and save it somewhere. It's not easy to get another receipt again later. We can get one for you, but right now this is the easiest way for you to do it. So be very diligent about accepting the receipts at this point. That would be the easiest, most expedient way for you to get that information. All right. Hopefully that answers everybody's questions about exemptions. How can the client pay fees for the exemption? So we're working on right now, I know it's not fully answering your question, how can the client pay the fees for the exemption? Right now, as you see, it makes you pay the fees before you can submit it. Very soon, we're changing all these records so that as the pre-application is, you used to have to pay for the pre-application at the same point, and we're making all the records to where it submits the application, and then you'll get a notification later that fees are owed for your application fees, and then we'll be able to pay them that way. Right now, you would just save the the record, you wouldn't pay the fees right there. You would save it for later. You would have to call in to our office and have the person, well, I should back up. Have the person that's responsible for paying the payments call in the office after you've started the application and you've gotten to that payment screen. You save that for later, and then they'll have to call and pay for it over the phone or come into the office to pay for it then before we can get that thing fully processed. Sorry about the inconvenience, but we are diligently working on refining that process so that the fees are not required upon submittal. Oh, you're welcome, Hannah. Okay, man, we're just not cranking out as many questions as normal. Let's see, how can I fill out some more airtime with you guys? I want to make sure that you're feeling good before we log off of this thing. We still got another half hour to go. Let's see, I've already missed my ferry, so there's no getting out of here early now. So let's make it worth our time, and we'll get some more questions going in here if you guys want. Let's see, other than looking up records, we've done that. Pre-applications. So there is the intake appointment. I haven't covered that yet. I do apologize right now because I'm not very good with the intake part of this. But let's see, where is this one, Tanya? No, it doesn't have the button.
Yeah, they're probably already. So we're looking for one that is ready to submit, like use the construction intake upload. Is that what they're looking for?
I was gonna just show the what do you call it? Intake appointment.
Oh, scheduling an intake appointment.
Yeah.
Let's see if that one has one.
Okay.
That one might be one we can.
Well, hopefully we've sent you something that says we need to schedule your intake appointment. We'll give this one a shot right here. I'm just clicking on the record number, and in the inspections and appointments section of the record, if I click on that, great. Okay, we have a construction intake appointment. We can click on actions and reschedule or schedule. In this case, we're rescheduling. And we wait for that to wind around, and you'll see here earliest available dates for construction intake date are 10/29. So we're gonna bump it up here to 10/29. So this date here we can select as the earliest date for an intake appointment. And as we've said, these will get some people, I don't know, I don't want to say everybody, but chances are you'll get email saying, hey, we can get you in earlier, and we'll have that for you. So I scheduled the intake appointment. I continue, finish. Wait a minute while this thing winds around, and there we go. Now it's scheduled for 10/29/2018. Whew. All right. That was a tough one. Just checking something. Okay, good. All right. So when you schedule your intake appointment, you're probably going to need to upload some documents. And where was that record? Oh, here we go. So after I do that and I want to upload my intake documents, I'll click the Make Changes button on the line of that particular record. I'm getting really used to this Make Changes. Oh, where to go? That's not the right record. Maybe it was this one. Well, I'll just say, when I do, there will be one of these options will be your intake documents, and you'll be able to, I can't remember the exact words, but you'll be able to upload them at that time. Construction intake upload will be the option that you see there. If my other portal didn't get shut down, I had one all ready to go for you guys, and well, no, that's all right.
This is a related question.
Okay, can you explain the difference between intake and pre-application? Well, pre-application is you think of the application that you would fill out on a piece of paper. That's your pre-application. You're filling this thing out and you're saying this is the concept, this is what we're going to do. You put that in, and we use that pre-application record, all that information that you put in, we copy that information to create all your other permits that you're going to need. So your land use permit can be created off of that pre-application. Your construction permit can be created off of that pre-application. Your exemptions can be created off of that pre-application. The difference, so that's a record that we use to copy information from to create other records. The intake is where you're now submitting your big set of plans, and you're going to get all that stuff sent into the city, so now we can really get going on that application. So the pre-application is just a record we use. The intake appointments where we're getting busy and we're uploading all our information. And technically you may be resubmitting the same information, but there should be more information from the plans routing folks when we're doing the pre-application for any additional documents that you may need to re-upload for the intake appointment. Okay, what about blanket permits? What is the difference between those and a construction and any other permit? A blanket permit is a permit that we set up for an escrow. If you don't know much about those, you probably don't want to bother. But for large buildings that have a continuing amount of projects, remodels, and stuff going on them, they'll set up a one parent blanket permit, and it's an escrow account which you can pay for other permits off of that initial escrow account. And as you apply for other blanket permits, they're childs of the big parent one that contains the escrow, and those are basically the same thing as STFI permits. So no special inspections, no big major structural changes are on blanket permits. So if you have an escrow account and a blanket permit already started for a large building, that's when you would be using those blanket permits. Ooh, feedback to the city. Communication. All right, let me read this a little louder. Feedback to the city. Communication, email notifications, etc., are not happening, and contacting someone to talk to is almost impossible. Putting together a contact list and ensuring the emails and notifications are actually being made is a process improvement that needs to be implemented as soon as possible. Yes, we are working as hard as we can to clear up all the communications that the records are sending. We have redundant communications and in some case missing communications. So if everything's working right, the communications will go out as planned, but there's always exceptions to the rule, and we can only apologize for that. But if you feel that you're in a space where you're not getting the notifications that you need, I'm going to go back to that phone number again, 206-684-8850, and chances are they'll send you to the ACE team, where they will go and do everything they can to scour through your records, find out what's going on, find if there is any missing communications, and get that information to you and get your record on the right track. It's been an ongoing effort. There's usually a couple people working the phones every day. We're doing our best to keep the city on track, get those permits going so that nobody's being left in the dust. But yes, to kind of go a little bit more on that request, that last comment for us. We are doing everything we can to get these records straightened out so that the communications are going to be amazing and you're never going to miss a thing. All right, so when we are assigned a project and our client only provides a blanket permit, should we wait for the other permit number so that the special inspections will be required under? Sometimes, wait, hold on. So when we are assigned a project and our client only provides a blanket permit, should we wait for the other permit number? I'm going to say so that the special inspections. Okay, I know what you're saying. Yes, if you have special inspections required, it's going to be a construction permit with review. So the blanket permit isn't going to be anything that you guys want to get involved with in those particular situations. If there is other work that needs to be done and you can get a permit separately for tenant improvements, then by all means go ahead and get the blanket permit for whatever those other things are, and in the meantime get your construction permit for the big project that requires the special inspections. That's my best advice in those particular situations. Oh, we got more coming on that one. Good. Excuse me, I hope you didn't hear that. Alright, there's someone typing a message and it's just long in the waiting. I'm hoping that question's a good one. Okay. Excuse me. I took a drink of water and it went down the wrong hole. No, it's not there yet. Okay, well, we'll talk about collections. We did this earlier. Oh, it came. No, did it not? Okay, no. All right. Back to the list of my records. Excuse me. So, for collections, we talked very briefly on creating new collections. Pretty simple process. We check a few records and we want to add them to a collection. We can add them to one that we already have, or by checking this radio button, we can create a new one, give it a name and a fancy description. When we do create the collections, no, they do not come off of the list here, but they go up here in this collections. So if I open that thing up, you see that we have 2 collections, 3 records in each, and by clicking on the blue link, we can open up that collection of records. These records are in their various status. When they hit a point where you decide, I don't want these records in this collection anymore, you can check the box and click remove up here, and it'll shoot that record out of your collection. And you don't need it anymore. And you can delete the collection if everything's done now, or you can rename the collection if you decide. Not too much to go over in those. I hope they're very simple for you guys to use out there. Takes a little bit of practice, but it is a good way of putting them in new categories. Oh. All right, perfect. Okay. Let's see here. It's not as active a crowd as usual. Well, let's go back to home. So, since we're here, and I talked before about searching for things on the global search, I want to show you an example of why. Well, one thing that you can do, if you know that you have records and they're missing, you can, believe it or not, I can put my name. My goodness, me and the caps lock button, we don't get along. There we go, that looks better. I can type my name in the search all records, and I'll be so embarrassed if this doesn't work, but there we go. I've used my name on all these records. I have to be a contact on the record for it to work, But if you feel that you have lost records, or there's a record somebody else in your company that no longer works there, was the applicant for it, it's a pretty great tool for that purpose, that you can type in a name up here and you can get all these records to shoot out for you, and there we go. And I got all these fun things that I can work on. It's one good way of searching for things, but I do want to show this one more time in case people came in late and didn't get the first introduction on using Find Existing to find my records. If I go into Permits Trade after logging in, it's a key point, Permits Trade Construction and Land Use, if I'm dealing with permits. No, they don't. Oh, okay. So this environment's slightly different. As you saw before, the Search My Existing Records was over here. In this case, it's right here. So I'm searching only my records. I have to specify what type of permit it is, but then I can select construction permits that are only additional information requested. If you're an outfit that has a lot of permits that are been in review for more than 5 years, which I hope that's not the case, or just old permits that we're still working on, do pay attention to the create date over here. If you own buildings and you have lots of equipment that have been there for years and years, this will give you a problem, and you can just delete that date out of there and go ahead and hit search, and I'll find all my construction permits that are in this particular record status. Or I could just search for all construction permits without a status specified, and it'll show them all. Wow, okay. Let's try issued. And waiting. The awkward silence as we wait for our software to do its thing and produce a result. We have been working very hard in the background, upgrading servers and changing scripting and all kinds of stuff in the background to get this thing to run a lot faster for everybody. So you'll notice on the production environment it's probably a little bit quicker than what we're doing here. As you see, I have 3 issued construction permits that are my permits. I could uncheck the search my records only, and I could find every issued construction permit in the city of Seattle. So for anybody that's just doing searching in general, this tool is pretty great for that purpose. As I mentioned before, there are some customers out there that have licenses or equipment. If you have your refrigeration outfit and you're trying to find your refrigeration contractor license, sometimes that can be a little daunting. There's a new feature coming with the Find License and Equipment, and this is search by contact, and I can put in a name. And click search, and you'll see there's a few records that have my name on it. Look at that one, I'm a contractor. If I click on that, it opens that license. So now I can access that license and see what's going on with it. So I can apply for my refrigeration contractor, or my refrigeration permits. So there's some pretty fun features on searching in from the home screen on the Seattle Services portal. Okay, yeah, I think we hit it all. I don't know if there's anything else I can really cover on this thing. The questions are slowing down. No one's typing anything right now. So unless you got any last minute things to throw in here, I think I'm just gonna turn off the mic and call her good. I hope that you guys enjoyed the experience today with everything that we covered. I appreciate y'all for logging in and seeing what we had going on here. And with that being said, I'll turn off the mic. I'll wait a couple seconds and see if any questions come in. But other than that, we're going to log off. So thank you for your time.